Hi guys, continue with the rule set flick through series. Today I want to show you a rule set called Day of Battle, the Middle Ages, historical rules for 1050 AD to 1500 AD. Um, this rule is written by Christopher Parker, who has a YouTube channel with some very interesting ex- explanation of some rule mechanics that I will post the link below. We'll have a quick look at the rules. These rules I consider very innovative. They have a very unique style of playing, and I was very intrigued when I heard about them because not many rule sets are focused in a certain period. Most of them are expanding of 3,000 years of warfare. So here you have the basics. Go quickly talking about unit depth and models per unit. The rules are very flexible. You can see here from the graphics, as long as the base width is 120 mm for 28 mm miniatures, impetus based almost, and 80 mm for 15 mm. You can have any combination, and the graphics show perfectly. Here you have the definition and concepts. You have the rounding. You have playing cards and dice. Playing cards are part of the game. Here is how much the play card costs, but they don't overpower the game at all. Here is front flag and rear facings, camps, terrain, how you place your terrain. This is very detailed analysis of how you place the terrain and how you set up the game based on your commander's attributes that we'll discuss about it. I don't really focus in terrain placing, but the commander and its attributes play a very important role. So here we have troops classification. I like this part because it reminds me of my old medieval warfare rules. I like when rules have a lot of classifications. So you have close, loose, and open order. You have heavy, medium, and light infantry, light troops, excuse me. You have elite, veteran, average, and poor. Um, here have certain stake rules. And here is the army creation. And another big part of the battlefield of the rule book explains you the mechanics and how you use dice and cards and how you calculate the army based on the army lists that are in the end of the book. Again, very important role is played by your warlord, your commander. It's called warlord here, and his attributes. And also, a very nice touch is the warlord retinue. Here is recruiting leaders, unit promotions, quite a lot of detail. And here we go to the warlord. I will stop here for a bit. Here, if I can explain this part of the rulebook, it is very close to an RPG. It's actually very innovative. You start as a baron, as you can see here, as a baron who is unknown, and by performing actions on the battlefield and winning battles, your esteem will grow regarding the points you will get, and then also your social rank will grow and can go up to king. It has many characteristics that play an important role in the battlefield, and uh, gaining honor points will make your commander improve in social standing. Also, you have a motivation table, another very important part of your characteristics. So, if you're a raider, your primary skill is initiative. If you're a mercenary, your primary skill is combat. If you're a chivalric, your primary skill is personal combat. You can understand all these play a very important role. So personal skills table, warlord profile, greed, so the initiative level and all uh, the the information you require to create and then use during the battlefield. It's capturing the warlord. And here are the honor points I was talking to you about. This is very interesting, but because you can make a series of battles look like campaigns regarding the actions that you perform and the victories, you get points, and then you can improve your social standing and esteem. But again, your strategies can change depending on what type of a commander you are. If you're a raider, if you're a mercenary or a chivalric, you get different points for the same action. So you can plan ahead, or you can have a strategy what you want to perform more so you can get more points as a mercenary, for example, who melee made first melee hit, you get 3 points. Well, all of them get 3 points, but you know what I mean. You can see here in the army lists that the points are different for the same actions. Here is how you make post-battle leadership tests. There are many examples, many written examples. Here's the common retainers. Here, basically, this is the god roll. You have three rolls, 3 cards that you can use even if you don't have command points, or you can reroll or redraw a card. And these are called retainers, page, squire, and a sergeant. You can use them once in the battlefield. Leaders, heroes, sub-commanders that have also attributes. Battle line, very interesting rule. That's a group of units moving, but has characteristics, has morale. You have to do morale tests, can regroup. To be in a battle line, you have to be the furthest 3 inches from your from the other units. If you are further, you're not in the battle line. If you're shaken, as you can see here, the battle line breaks and the unit is not part of the battle line, and it reduces in strength. Battle line movement, the PIP course. Here is another battle line. The movement is the movement of the slowest unit. Here's capturing the banner. The battle line has a banner unit, and a banner, if this is lost, the battle line is lost. Here's the unit damage. If you're mounted in close order, you have 3 stamina. If you're open order, you have 2 stamina, and so on and so forth. If this goes to 0, of course, you are destroyed. This is the combined unit rules, very interesting rule. Regrouping. Unit static stable, you're in good order. This is the order, basically good order, shaking or broken. These are very interesting unit formations. You can have really big units if you're interested in combined formations that some units can combine with units of the same type to create larger units. A combined unit is represented by placing one unit behind another. Combined unit stable, here you can see what units you can combine. For example, foot may form a shield wall of 2 to 3 units. You can combine spears, and here the graphics show you how the combined units look and how you can represent them. You can combine even 3 units, as you see here, pikes and spears. Pikes can combine 3 units, so this could be a combined unit of spikes. Or pikes, excuse me. I have also rules for mixed units. This is a wedge rule and shield wall rule. Again, examples of shield wall. I like these graphical representations. They give you a good idea of how things look. I would have enjoyed having them in the rule set, although the rule set has a lot of examples. Here is the initiative. The initiative is a combination of your social standing, of cards and dice, and the same is with the pips, the command points, and in the end of this calculation, very simple calculation. Don't get frightened that I'm saying you're calculating. You will see how many cards you will draw, depending, of course, also on your social ranking, and these cards will be your pips for the round. Action phase: initial shooting and battle line morale checks, movement, melee, battle line morale checks, taking ground, breakthrough movement of mounted, breakthrough melee, and any morale checks, final shooting, any battle line morale checks. Perform unit regroups, honor points tally. So here are the commands. You can command a unit to shoot, to maneuver, which includes any combination of movement and charging, and you can regroup. Very simple. Most of them cost 1 point, except of certain circumstances where you need more points depending on if you have attached personality, if you're moving a shaken unit, and so on and so forth. Also, you have battle line commands, as we said before about the battle line, more units together. Here's how you lose personalities. Something you have to take care of is that in all initiative tests, you may not be able to have command points to command. Maybe one draw or one calculation will go wrong, and the draw will not let you have cards to command your units. It's a good thing if you have extra cards or cards you haven't used during one command phase to keep them in case you have a bad roll or a bad calculation. here's movement. Movement is very interesting and innovative. It's based on a proximity rule. Each unit here you can see has a movement rate, but depending on the distance he's from the opponent, and you have three distances: close, distant, basic. 30 inches, 15 to 30 inches, and less than 15 inches, his movement is reduced. It's considering that while you're closing against your enemy, you're closing ranks, you're preparing to fight, so you're going slower. This proximity rule also is in other rule sets. I like this type of philosophy. Other movement. The movement is very simple, very plain. It reminds me of DBA. The element, the base can move and face any position, but for group, the restrictions are much more severe. Interpenetration, again, you have interpenetration between units. Forced march is another very interesting rule. You can force march by drawing card, but sometimes, but the red cards are negative values, so maybe your forced march then will be less than your actual move. Charging and wadding. Charging is when you charge, you need command points to charge. Wadding, you just float against your opponent, you don't need command points. But if you charge, you get in the melee table, you get a +1 d6. Battle line morale. This is the battle line morale, a very good rule. So the battle line we're talking before has a morale. Sometimes it requires a test. For example, let's see, when you require to test, a close order, loose order unit receives one or more hits. A close or loose order unit breaks. A personality or banner is lost, captured or killed. Mercenary unit retreats. Morale markers equal or exceeds remaining units in good order. So these are the reasons for you to test. How you test, you do a very simple calculation. Depending on the types of units you have, these are the values. You multiply with the number of units of elite or veteran, and you get a battle line break value, as you see here. Then you're using the modifiers, depending on how many strikes or how many threatened units you have. Threatened units are units that are closer to 6 inches from your flank or rear. Personality lost, and you have a number. If this number is higher than your break value, you pass. If it's lower, you fail, and you have repercussions. If you pass with flying colors, as it says Elan, you are so excited that you need to force march some of your units. If you lose, then you have battle line morale results table. As you can see, you can retire, retreat, and break. And this is the severity. What the severity means, it means that if you lose the battle line test by 3, that means you have choices, or you can break a unit, or you can of severity 3, or you can retire a unit for 1 and retreat a unit for 2. That's very nice. I mean, I'm explaining to very generically now, but it's a very nice, innovative way of absorbing or of absorbing outcomes. There are 3 different outcome moves of increasing severity. Units may make up to 2 multiple outcome moves on a single unit. So you can make 2 on a single unit. They must start with the least severe and progress to the more severe outcomes with each additional move they make. And here are examples of battle line morale test. I hope I'm explaining you well. It's a very innovative rule. Shooting again, the procedure of shooting, who can shoot. Here is the shooting ranges. You can split your shooting between different units, especially if you're trained. Moving and shooting. This is the shooting dice table. Artillery rolls 1 dice, handgun 2 and others 3. Here a situation where you get modifiers, plus 2d6, plus 1d6. Here each command bonus point. As I said before, you can keep some command points if you haven't used them during movement and use in shooting or in melee. If you use it in melee, you can use it to boost your dice. If in shooting, you can use it to remove 1 dice from your opponent also, from the shooter. And here is the strike table. This is the vulnerability target. So in order to shoot someone, to hit him, you have all these modifiers here. Shooting a target, heavy cover. There's a lot of interesting modifiers regarding situations. But if the target is close, it's 3 and below. If it's medium, 2 and below. And if it's long, it's 1. So The scores from the combat dice are compared to the vulnerability of the target. All scores less or equal to the target vulnerability are strikes. So here you strike with 3, 2, and 1. All scores of 1 are re-rolled. The 1 is a strike, but the original strike stand, and then a second strike is added if a 1 is re-rolled again. I like this vulnerability table because all the situations are there here in the situations in the dice modifier table, and here it depends also on the distance. Here's outcome and move hits. Again, you have outcomes, you have retire and retreat. The severity is 1 and 2. So if you lost by 3, you can use the same unit to retire and retreat, or you can use 1 unit to retire and 1 unit to retreat. You have a lot of options. You can retire for 1 and the other 2 hits, you can put them on the unit. So there's a lot of options how this outcome moves. You will judge these outcome moves how you will do them according to your strategy. Here are examples of how the shooting works. And here's melee. Again, here is the melee procedures, wadding in. I was talking to you before. Reactions to charges, cancelling a charge. Multiple melee, you have basically the unit with most contact with the enemy is the main unit, and you have supporting units, flank or rear, but you can have only 2 supporting units. Now, how many dice? Elite have 5 dice, veteran have 4 dice, average have 3 dice, and poor have 2 dice. But now here is the innovative part of melee, weapon of choice. Now, what is the weapon of choice? In melee, certain situation combinations of weapons, armor, and troop type are superior to those of the opposition. When in melee, a unit should determine its position in the following table. So, defending stakes and camp is a weapon of choice and a severity of 7. Trained pike or spear is a weapon of choice by severity of 6. So, if any of your commands of your units are in this situation, for example, you are defending stakes and your longbow defending stakes or a camp, you have the weapon of choice. What this means that when you go down to the vulnerability table, you have your weapon of choice. That means that you have to roll 4, 3, 2, or 1 to hit. Your opponent, who is not using weapon of choice against a unit that is, so your opponent won't have the weapon of choice or has a weaker weapon of choice, he has to score 1 or 2 to succeed. So depending on the situations and depending on the weapon of choice, the number required to hit is different. Here are the combat modifier table, combat bonus die, as we said, the die, the cards that are not used in moving, attach personality for each supporting unit, max 2, any trained unit other than missile unit, charging in the open from beyond 3 inches away. So you see, charging gives a bonus. Warding doesn't, but warding doesn't need command points. So you get your rolls, and finally you check your vulnerability table regarding your weapon of choice, and then you have the outcome moves. Losing units must use the first strike to retire. That's standard. A further strike can be used to retreat or stand and take a hit. Remaining strikes becomes hits. So if you lose by 3, what can you do? So you retire 1 inch, 3 inch in the behind, 1 severity, and you have 2 more hits that you have to absorb. Or you retreat the same unit about face and moves 3 inches away, or it stays where the unit is, but he gets 2 hits. Ties or a difference of 1 strike, the defender usually when it's a tie, the defender is considered a victor, and when the difference is only 1 strike, you both units draw cards, and they may get actual strikes by this card draw, if it's red or if it's black. Combined units. This is basically the pushback. The unit that wins takes the place of the unit that loses. And here's melee examples. Here's domain list. Here's basically the notes. Here's the types of units, veteran, heavy armor, all the characteristics. And here you have the army lists, War of the Roses, with very detailed explanation. Norman and Anglo-Saxon domain, call it domain. He's here. This is where you get your army list from. Your army list, your deployment. Feudal English, Feudal French, go a bit closer. Feudal Scots, Feudal German, Crusaders, Seljuk Turks, 100 Years War English, 100 Years War French. So you see here you have knights. So here you have knights, they're heavy, they're veteran, they're trained, and hey, there's a very nice rule. You have all the information you require here. Appendix, the Crusades. The Crusades have many special rules, and they're very interesting, very well detailed, and they have extra personalities because you have abbot, monsignor, bishop, archbishop, or caliph, or sultan, or emir. So there's a lot of extra characteristics for the warlords. Some advanced rules. Here is DBX and field of glory bases, how you can use them in the game. This is Enhei, first charge by knights. This gives the possibility of knights to break through and destroy an opponent, and you give them for the foot the same thing. You get some randomized cards. This is some special rules regarding special return tables, fanatics, feigned and retreat in flight, special return and attributes. A lot of warlords, more detail into warlords. You can be cautious, you can be bloodthirsty, you can be uncanny, where always draw one command card regardless of the result of the initiative check. So you can really, you can get into depth with these commanders. Personal battle outcome, warlord challenge, opponent casualty distribution. You see how you can, when shooting or in melee, each player rolls a special d6. If the score is 1 or 2, the player may choose how he strikes. His strikes are distributed. Such disposition cannot break a unit unless all other outcome moves have been applied. So that's a very interesting special rule. And here is design, inside, campaign, and solo play. Some ideas from the designer. So guys, this was Day of Battle. I hope I've explained to you the rules as the best I could. I hope you understood the innovation. I love this weapon of choice. I love these outcome moves that have severities, and depending on the outcome, you can absorb the hits, or you can strategically decide you're going to retreat, or you're going to absorb hits. Or very, very interesting, very innovative. I need to playtest the rules. I will playtest them hopefully when I will go back, when all this craziness with the coronavirus and traveling stops. I hope I did justice to the rules. I think they're quite clever, quite innovative. I'm going to put the link of the designers and writers YouTube channel, but there's a couple of examples there. Christopher Parker, and that's it from me. Thank you so much for watching, and bye bye guys. Have a nice evening.